Hello everybody! Have you ever tried to unlock a cupboard with your smartwatch? That's exactly what this video is about. But why would you want to lock a cupboard at all? Well, there might be different reasons. For example, you might have small kids and you want to keep them away from certain cupboards or drawers. Or you might have some third party coming into your house, for example, for cleaning, and you want to make sure that they are not able to just access any of your cupboards that you don't want them to look into. In my case, we have installed some magnetic locks into some of the cupboards and drawers in my house in order to keep our little one away from those. But we always need to have such a magnet at hand in order to unlock those, and this is really annoying because whenever you need the magnet, it's not there. So this DIY project will tackle that problem, and we will be able to use not only our smartwatch but also our smartphone and also some classic NFC tags in order to unlock the drawers and cupboards in the house. Let's jump right in!
Smart home maker, rock the beat. Innovation at your feet. Build it up, don't complicate. Home solutions, you're the mate.
Here's an overview of the required components. First of all, we need an ESP32 dev board, for example a D1 Mini ESP32. Then we also need an NFC tag reader, for example a PN532 NFC tag reader module. We also need some kind of electrical lock. In my case, I chose a 12 volts electrical lock, which is usually used for lockers, so I think it should be strong enough and it should be also powerful enough to be able to keep a drawer and or a cupboard closed. The next thing we need is an N-channel MOSFET. This MOSFET is used to turn on or off this 12 volt electric lock, and we also need, in the case that we don't want to have two separate power supplies, we need some kind of step-down converter to convert the voltage, which is 12 volts in case of the electrical lock, down to 5 volts, so that we can also use this to power our ESP32 dev board. Furthermore, we need a 12 volt power supply and we also need some wires and soldering equipment. Okay, and here you can now see the wiring scheme. On the right side you see the DC 12 volt power supply, which supplies the whole circuit, and we also see that it is directly connected to the input side of the DC-DC step-down converter, which is in my case configured to output 5 volts. And so we have a 12 volt power line and a 5 volt power line. The 12 volt power line is also connected to the lock relay side, and it's also important that at least the lock that I got has kind of two input-output lines. The one is the lock relay and the other one is the lock state. So you can also kind of read out the lock state if this is required. But in my case, it is not really required, so I just did not connect this at all. Then the other side of the lock relay goes to the drain of the N-channel MOSFET. And then we can also see that this N-channel MOSFET, the gate of the N-channel MOSFET is connected to the GPIO 25 of the ESP32 dev board. In this case, it's a ESP32 D1 Mini. Then we also have a connection from DC 5 volts to the VCC input of the ESP32 dev board to power it up. And this also goes to the VCC input of the NFC module in order to power that one up. Then we also of course have to connect ground to the ESP32 dev board as well as to the NFC module. And then we have to connect the NFC module via SPI to the D1 Mini board. And here we have to use the different GPIOs. GPIO 23 is connected to the MOSI, the GPIO 19 is connected to the MISO, the GPIO 18 is connected to the clock, and the GPIO 26 is connected to the CS pin, and we will see those reflected in the YAML code later on as well. What is very, very important is that you make sure that you set those little switches installed on the NFC tag reader board into the right position in order to enable SPI communication. Otherwise, the communication with ESPHome and with the solution that I'll show you in the ESPHome YAML code soon will not work. So you will always get an error that says PN532 component failed. This was also in my case, and then I figured out that I had forgotten to set those little switches. That's why I'm explicitly explaining it here, and you have to make sure that you look into the little table below the switches, which exactly tells you which of the switches has to go in which direction, so that you make sure that SPI communication is enabled. Here you can see my first attempts of playing around with the solution, and here I was trying to make sure that this lock works as expected. That's why I was connecting it directly to a power supply which was supplying the 12 volts. Now the next thing we need to do is to set up the ESPHome YAML code, which is required to make this work. And it is also very important that we integrate a external component which is called hap-esphome, which is a great project that was developed by the community, which allows us to use Apple HomeKit together with ESPHome. So you cannot only expose the lock and use the smart lock mechanism, you can also expose light entities, for example, to HomeKit with this project. So this is really awesome. But I use it only for making sure that I have an Apple HomeKit compatible lock available, which I can then connect to my Apple Watch, to my smartphone, in order to unlock or lock my lock. Now let's have a look into the very interesting ESPHome YAML code. First of all, of course, we have to give our project a name. In my case, it's the Smart Cupboard Lock because I want to lock a cupboard with this. Then I have to give some ESP32 dev board specifics. And here, very importantly, we have to make sure that we correctly specify the framework. So we have to use the ESP-IDF framework, not the Arduino framework. That's very important. And we also need to make sure to specifically set the version 5.2.1 and the platform version 6.7.0 together with those SDK config options. Otherwise, compilation will most likely fail and it will not work. Then you also have to enable logging, of course. We have to include the external component from HAP ESPHome. This is also very important. Then some API, encryption key, OTA and Wi-Fi and access point. This is standard for the Home Assistant integration, etc. and for the Wi-Fi integration. Of course, don't worry about this red squiggles here. It's because it's not a valid key. And also this is not the correct password. I just replaced this because this is an online video. Then now comes the interesting part. We have our SPI configuration. So we have to define the clock pin, the MISO pin and the MOSI pin. These pins here are exactly as shown in my wiring diagram that I have shown you. Then we have to define the PN532 module, which is connected via SPI. So we need to give it an ID, this is important. We need to also give it the CS pin, which is also like shown in the wiring diagram. We need to set an update interval, and with this update interval we can also play if the recognition of the tag or your watch, etc. does not work perfectly. You can play around with this a little bit. And then also I have defined an on-tag trigger. This on-tag trigger is fired whenever a tag is read, and I use this in the case that I'm just using a standard NFC tag and not my smartwatch or my iPhone, because in that case I just want to check if a certain tag ID is given, and this is the tag that I have here. Then I just want to unlock or lock. So whenever the tag is read, I'm unlocking or I'm locking, depending on the current state of my lock. Then we have to give this information about the HomeKit base setup code. This is important for setting it up in Apple HomeKit. And then we define our HomeKit lock. Here we give it an ID, and it needs to be the same ID as a template lock that we will see further down in the code. Then we have our NFC ID. This is our NFC SPI module that we have defined up here, so the same ID than this one. And then it's the interesting part on HK success. That means when a successful authorization has occurred with the Apple Watch or the iPhone, then I want to log some debugging information, the issuer ID and the endpoint ID. And the same thing as up here, depending on the current state of the lock, I want to unlock it or lock it. So basically just toggle the lock state. Then if it fails, we want to log an error. And this here is for the finish of the key. So you just can define the color kind of your key here. I think you have silver, gold, etc. Different colors you can select from. I chose silver. Then there is the possibility to add a button for the factory reset. You don't need this, but I have added it here. And then there's this template lock that is required, because this is the lock that is actually exposed to ESPHome, which is the really awesome thing, because you can lock and unlock your lock not only from HomeKit, but also from ESPHome. So there's different possibilities to lock or unlock your cupboard or your drawer or whatever, because you can use your watch, you can use your iPhone. If you tap on to the NFC tag reader, you can use the NFC specific static NFC tag to tap on to the NFC tag reader, and you could also just unlock it from ESPHome, and that means you can unlock it from Home Assistant, for example, which is also really amazing. So you could define further automations, for example, when I'm coming into the room and my personal presence is detected, it automatically unlocks or whatever. So this is really awesome. So you have to give this also a name, and then you have to also define what happens when the lock is locked or unlocked. So you can use those triggers as well. In my case, I just lock door locked, and I turn off the switch electronic lock. And now this is the connection to the actual hardware lock, because this is the switch I defined down here, which is an output switch. That means this switch triggers an output onto a GPIO. So which is the output? It's the lockout, and that's again this one here. So this is the output, and it just goes out on the GPIO 25. So that means on the GPIO 25, this is the GPIO that gets set to high or low depending on lockout, your lock output or your switch status. This is awesome. So because with this you can then turn on the MOSFET or turn it off kind of, so to make sure that the lock will actually be powered or not, and therefore it will be locked or unlocked. So in this case, on lock, I turn off the switch, and on unlock, I turn on the switch. So that means, because for my lock, when it gets powered on, it will actually kind of unlock. So in this, that's why I turn on the switch, and then I turn it on only for 100 milliseconds, and then I turn it off again. Because if you, in my case for this lock, I read in the reviews on Amazon where I bought it, that this lock is very sensitive to kind of longer duration of power. So if you put the power on too long, that it would break or something like that. And that's why I just wait for 100 milliseconds and then I turn it off automatically again. Because that's enough to make sure that it unlocks. Now that's the ESPHome code, and now we can have a look at how this looks like in Home Assistant, and also how it will look like in Apple HomeKit. After you have compiled the ESPHome YAML code and also flashed it to your ESP32 dev board and then added the device to Home Assistant, you should see your device in Home Assistant like this. And the most important entity here is the HomeKit cupboard lock, which is the lock that we can now use to unlock or lock our actual hardware lock that we want to install into our cupboard. And as you can also see, if I open Apple HomeKit, here you can also see my HomeKit cupboard lock. It is now locked, so as you see, it has exactly the same state than the HomeKit cupboard lock shown in ESPHome, and this is always synchronized. Very nice. And now we want to see our prototype in action. What you can see here is our first prototype. On the one side we have our electric lock, which is in a locked state. We have our NFC tag reader. We have the ESP32 dev board. We have the step-down converter, and we also have the DC 12-volt power supply. And there is the little MOSFET that controls the electric lock. Now we put our NFC tag onto the tag reader and you can see that the lock unlocks. Awesome! But this was only half the way we wanted to go, because our ultimate goal is to be able to use our Apple Watch or iPhone to unlock or lock the lock. And I will show you now that I can use my home key for my home, which is called the Smart Home Maker, of course, in order to unlock the lock. Look at this. Isn't that an amazing solution? I love it. Wow, I'm really happy about this solution now, and I think this is a very good prerequisite for the next part, where we will build this into an actual cupboard and also build a nice housing for it so that it really looks nice and clean. And then we will hopefully have an awesome solution that will not only satisfy me, because I can use my Apple Watch or my iPhone to unlock the drawer, which I really love, but it will also hopefully satisfy my wife, because my wife always wants to have the things also working in the analog way. But in the analog way, we have our magnet at the moment, and I think I can exchange that magnet with a static NFC tag. This is not so much of a difference, and so I think I will also satisfy her with this solution. And yeah, now I'm really interested about your comments. If you liked the video, then please also feel free to share it, and also watch my other videos. And of course, maybe if you like my content, also subscribe to my channel so that you also get informed about my upcoming videos. See you next time. Thank you so much. Bye bye.